My name is Derin. I'm a systems support assistant at Framestore. Framestore is a digital content company that creates images for TV, film, rides. We do work in advertising, and we've created content for films such as The Avengers, Gravity, and Harry Potter. Framestore is a company that employs a lot of creative people with different skill sets. And a lot of those creatives, the visual effects artists, do require a variety of software and hardware to be able to do their jobs. And that is where my job comes in. So we handle a lot of the artist side troubleshooting. We handle making sure that their software is working right, that they have the programs that they need to run to be able to do their jobs. We make sure that they have the right equipment, that they have powerful enough computers to be able to run programs like Maya, which is a 3D modeling software, for instance, or Nuke, which can be used for compositing, and just to make sure that they are in a state that they can continue to produce the films that we make. I say my journey started when I was in secondary school. I really loved arts and design, so I knew that I always wanted to be in the film industry in some capacity. So I worked on that, and throughout my A-levels, my GCSEs, I was always really art-focused. But I also had an interest in computer science and coding. It wasn't a strong interest at first, but I feel like as I went on, that got built up. So I went to university and I studied visual effects, with the aim again of being in the visual effects industry. After uni, I got a job in a more technical field that involved troubleshooting technology, essentially computers, phones, and that broadened my interest in technology. So I got more interested in that side of things. I started to learn programming, and then that was how I found myself at Framestore, which kind of married my two interests perfectly. I think the best thing about coming to work for me would be the variety of people that I get to speak to. You don't just get to interact with the people in your team, but you get to interact with so many people from different countries, different backgrounds, and people who are essentially doing work that's completely different from what I do every day. And I think it's just interesting to have that variety every day. There's a whole range of different skills that help to make the industry what it is. There's us in systems, there are people who handle the recruitment, there are people who handle the customer or client-facing side. There are people who manage those people to make sure that everything runs smoothly and efficiently. And I feel like without these skills all working in tandem, the whole thing doesn't exactly piece together as efficiently as it does. My role fits into the larger visual effects organization in the way that we help keep things running a lot more than I think is obvious. It was something that I never considered when I was trying to get into the industry at first as an artist or as a visual effects artist. But now that I'm actually in this side of the industry, I'm learning that a lot of the hardware, a lot of the software that is used has to be maintained by someone, and it has to be built by someone. And without those people there to provide these services, then a lot of the other departments can't function the way they do. My university course helped me in this role in that it made me more familiar with the software and the hardware that is used in the industry. So I was familiar with how animation works, with how tracking works, compositing. I knew these phrases before I entered the role, so they weren't as foreign to me as they would have been if I'd maybe studied in a different field. I think that there are definitely other pathways than university to get into the field I'm currently in. I felt at first that me having a degree in an arts-related subject would hold me back in the field I'm currently in the systems field, which it hasn't. I also feel like a lot of what I'm learning currently is being learned on the job, and also training outside of my actual role. So I feel that if you have the drive and the motivation and you can show that, then I think there's definitely a lot of companies that would take you on possibly without a degree, as long as they know that you're willing to put in the work. I think it's really important in any field to try and get as much experience as you can early on. So a lot of the time when I was in secondary school, I would look for companies that I was interested in working in. I would see who can I contact, if it was someone in HR, if it was especially small companies. A lot of the time their information is available. So someone who is doing the job that you like, you could always send them an email possibly if they would allow for that. And if you do get a response, most of the time they will elaborate on what they do, and Find out if you can get any work experience for these companies. See if they can maybe let you spend a day with them or just point you in the right direction. Maybe someone will give you advice on what software to start using or what facilities and what resources are available to you as well. For now, I think I'm still very interested in learning more about systems, more about tech, and how that interacts with the film and visual effects industry. So I'm working my way up through systems now, just learning day by day all the different software and different technology that's involved and trying to expose myself to as much as I can at this point. And I feel like that really helps me decide where I would want to go next. I feel like this is a field that needs training constantly. So I do a lot of training during the day. We have dedicated training hours, and I also try and do training outside of work because it's a field where things are constantly evolving, things are constantly changing, so you do need to keep up to date with those changes. Some of the ways that I keep up to date are by interacting a lot with my colleagues. I find out, especially from colleagues who are in a higher position than I am, I find out what they're doing, I find out what the best way would be for me to improve my skills, and then I take it from there. We have dedicated training time in which my manager, for instance, has outlined for us what he feels that we would need to progress in our jobs. So this is a variety of different skills in networking, in OS development, for instance, which deals with the operating systems, for instance, Linux, Windows, which we deal with here at Framestore, and just hands-on experience with the actual technology and the software that we use. The advice I'd give to anyone thinking about working in the creative industry would be to not hold themselves back, not feel like you can't do it because maybe you don't feel that you have the right skills, and to also not feel like you can't do something because you've perhaps gone too far in something else. For instance, I felt that I wanted to be an animator and I was pursuing that path for so many years, and I've completely diverged now to still the same industry but using a different skill set, and that wasn't something that I considered. So I think definitely keeping yourself as open as possible to different changes, different experiences, and being as open as possible with everyone you meet. I think sometimes you feel that you can't approach people in this industry or that you can't put yourself forward, but I feel like especially in this industry there's so many people who are willing to help and willing to offer that help and get you started, or at least give you the advice that you need to get started. Try and immerse yourself as much as possible. Watch as much as you can, read as much as you can, go to events, look on LinkedIn. You can use things like the Discover website as well to see what kind of job set your skills would suit. A good way that helped me get into the industry as well was reading about people who were doing the job that I wanted to do, or people who were already in that industry. And a lot of times those articles do give a lot of good advice. They tell you how they started out, how they progressed, and good ways to get into the field that they're currently in as well. I believe diversity is important in the creative industries because I feel especially now we see a lot more diverse content coming out, and I feel like you need people who've had these types of experiences to be able to tell these types of stories as well. If you have the same people from the same backgrounds who've had the same experiences, I feel like it narrows the value or the quality of the stories that you can tell. So having some different people from different backgrounds who have had those different experiences can bring a lot of new ideas to the table and help find new ways of telling stories, of creating, of adapting to different environments.